Hi, this is Mrs. Miller, and we're going to talk about figurative language because language can be fun. Sometimes authors use figurative language to help you make mind movies so that you can visualize the story and understand it better. So there are lots of types of figurative language, and today we're going to talk about two of them. We're going to talk about similes and idioms. Similes are very fun to read and they're very fun to write yourself. A simile compares two things using the word like or as. It always uses that word like or as. Okay, so here's an example. I'm happy as a clam. That doesn't mean that I am a clam. It just means that I'm happy. I'm as happy as a clam. Another example would be to look at my yellow sweater that I'm wearing today, and I could say, my sweater is as bright as the sun. I'm comparing my sweater to the sun. Another example of figurative language is an idiom. An idiom is an expression that means something different from the meaning of its individual words. Idioms can be really tricky to figure out because they don't mean what they say. Here's an example. I might say, I feel sick as a dog. It doesn't mean that I am a dog. It just means that I feel really sick. We're going to look at some more idioms in a moment because these are a little tricky. But first, let's look at some similes. Here are some examples of similes, and let's look at how they use the words like or as. So this first one says, he crept into the room as quiet as a mouse. Do you see how he uses the word as? The cloud was fluffy like cotton candy. This one uses the word like. The snowflakes sparkled like millions of tiny diamonds. This one also uses the word like. He was as angry as a grizzly bear. This example uses the word as. So a simile will always use the word as or like. So this week we're reading Judy Moody Mood Martian. And in this part of the story, Stink is talking to his sister Judy. He uses a simile in this paragraph. I'm going to read the paragraph to you, and I want you to see if you can find the simile. Remember, it's going to use the word like or as. But what if my pillow was standing up and the window was open and a hurricane came and super high winds blew down the pillow and knocked it on its side? Or what if a giant monster bigger than King Kong came and picked up our house and shook it like a toothpick and the pillow fell over? Can you spot the simile? I see the word like over here. It says, what if he picked up the house and shook it like a toothpick? Stink is comparing the house to a thin little toothpick. That would be a bit scary if King Kong picked up your house just like it was a toothpick. That's a good example of a simile. It compares the house to a toothpick, which means the house would not be very strong if King Kong could pick it up. Can you think of any other similes that you've heard or seen in the stories we've been reading? Let's look at some idioms. Idioms are a little bit harder to understand if you've never heard them before. So let's talk about some that you might have heard. One idiom is the words heart and soul. It means with all of one's energy or affection. So I might say, I love you with my entire heart and soul. That's an idiom. Another one might be a hot mess. You might hear a grown-up say, oh, they're a hot mess, or I'm a hot mess. If I'm running late for work and I spill my coffee all over myself and I'm having a bad morning, I might say, oh, I'm a hot mess today. It doesn't really mean that I'm hot. It's an expression. So idioms don't always mean what they say. Another idiom that you might have heard is just for the record. This is when you would really like to make something clear to somebody. So if my mom and dad are talking about something I did, I might say, well, just for the record, I didn't mean to do that. Well, just for the record, I did clean my room last week. It's an expression that you might hear. It means it's really important and I want you to know. Here's another example from Judy Moody. In this part of the story, Judy Moody is having a bad day at school. Her teacher sends her to Antarctica. Antarctica is a special desk in the back of the room where Judy Moody can go to calm down. But look at these highlighted words. It says that Judy has to go there to chill out. Let's read this paragraph and think about how chill out is an idiom. To make things worse, Rocky had grabbed her Sasquatch picture in class and wouldn't give it back. Then he passed it to Frank, which made Judy yelp and jump up out of her seat instead of doing her math. That's when Mr. Todd said the A word, Antarctica. The desk in the back of the room where Judy had to go to chill out. For the third time that day. Never in the history of Judy had she been to Antarctica that many times in a row. Judy Moody's teacher says that she needs to go to this desk to chill out. Does he want her to get cold and chill like an ice cube? No, that's not what he wants. He wants her to calm down. So the words chill out really mean calm down. They don't mean what they say. That's another example of an idiom. All right, friends, we're going to be looking for more examples of idioms and similes in the stories that we read. So I want you to pay attention because we're going to make a list a little later this week of all the ones that we can find. It might be fun to ask your parents what idioms they've heard. They might know some really fun ones.